Well, good afternoon, everyone. Today is Monday, February the 6th. This is the meeting of the Metro Council's Planning and Zoning Committee. And I will take a quick run through the roll. Councilmember Bradford is present. Councilmember Gamble. Councilmember Hager let me know he won't be able to join us. I also see that Councilmember Parker is present, Vice Chair Rutherford, Councilmember Toombs, and Councilmember Welsh. And that gives us a present count of 7, which gets us at or above our quorum requirement. So we do have a few items on our agenda that will likely have a fair amount of discussion. We have a couple of items, but I think most things will be on consent. We do have a few things as well that just have a couple of amendments. But in my version of our calendar, the items that I have that are not on consent are Councilmember Syracuse, I think, had let me know that item number 5, which was recommended for disapproval, that he plans to withdraw that one. And so I will include that in our consent reading, but just to withdraw it, just to save us all a little bit of time in committee today. So that's item number 5, which will be on consent, but for withdrawal. Number 8, BL 2023-1684 by Councilmember Taylor, who is around. That one has an amendment. Item number 11 on third reading, BL 2022-1471, we have several amendments on that one from Councilmember Parker, and that one will be one to discuss. And if it's all right with everyone, I'll say that one until the end of I'll move that to the heel of our agenda. Item number 12, Ordinance BL 2022-1531 from Councilmember Toombs has an amendment, so we'll take that one up. And then item number 18, which is BL 2022-1621 by Councilmember Rutherford, has an amendment. All other items that I have on our calendar will be on consent unless anyone wants to pull them at this time. Seeing no hands, I'll go ahead and begin reading those captions so that we can get the consent agenda out of our way. So, beginning with resolutions, item number 1, Resolution RS 2023-2000, sponsors are Councilmembers Johnston, Roten, Pulley, and Withers and Pulley, approves a project modification to an agreement between Metro Government and the United States Department of the Army to add a parcel related to the acquisition and removal of flood-prone properties in the 7 Mile Creek watersheds. Item number 2, Resolution 2023-2001, the sponsors are Councilmembers Roten, Withers, Pulley, and Murphy, approves an agreement between the United States Department of the Army and Metro Government, acting by and through Department of Water and Sewage Services for the Richland Creek Flood Risk Management Project. Item number 3, Resolution RS 2023-2002, the sponsors of Councilmembers Roten, Withers, and Pulley, authorizes Metro Government, acting by and through Metro Department of Water and Sewerage Services to enter into an agreement with Novo Antioch Owner LLC to fund the operation and maintenance of a force main within the public right-of-way for its development at 1421 Rural Hill Road. Item number 4, Resolution RS 2023-2003, the sponsors of Councilmembers O'Connell, Withers, and Pulley, amends Ordinance BL 2022-1082 to authorize Metro Government to abandon existing public sanitary sewer and water mains, sanitary sewer manholes and easements, to replace fire hydrant assembly, to relocate fire hydrant assembly, and to accept new public sanitary sewer and water mains, sanitary sewer manhole, fire hydrant assemblies, and easements for 2 properties located at 801 12th Avenue North and 800 14th Avenue North, also known as Chartwell Marathon Village. Item number 5, which is for withdrawal, but that is Ordinance BL 2022-1480 by Councilmember Syracuse, that amends the Metro Zoning Code by applying a contextual overlay district for various properties located east of McGavick Pike and south of Meadowood Drive, encompassing 207.1 acres. Item number 6, Ordinance BL 2023-1648, the sponsors are Councilmembers Sledge, Withers, Pulley, and others, amends the GIS system for Metro Government by renaming Horton Avenue between 11th Avenue South and 18th Avenue South to D. Ford Bailey Avenue. Item Item number 7, Ordinance Bill 2023-1649. The sponsors are Councilmembers O'Connell, Withers, Pulley, and others. Amends the GIS system for Metro government by renaming Lifeway Plaza between Reverend Kelly Miller Smith Way and 14th Avenue North intersection to Josephine Holloway Avenue. Item number 9, Ordinance Bill 2023-1686. The sponsors are Councilmembers Toome, Gamble, Roten, and others. Authorizes the granting of permanent and temporary construction easements to Piedmont Natural Gas on certain property owned by Metro government. Item number 10, Ordinance Bill 2023-1687. The sponsors are Councilmembers O'Connell, Withers, and Pulley. Authorizes Metro government to accept new public sanitary sewer manhole for property located at 910 Commerce Street, also known as Nashville Yards Parcel 9. The next one on our consent calendar is item number 13, Ordinance Bill 2022-1578. The sponsors Councilmember Sledge amends Metro zoning code by changing from IWD to MULA and S zoning for properties located at 1276, 1278, 1282, 1284, 1286, 1288, 1290, 1302, 1306, and 1308. 4th Avenue South and 4th Avenue South unnumbered, encompassing 1.74 acres. Item number 14, Ordinance Bill 2022-1608. The sponsors Councilmember Toombs amends the Metro zoning code by changing from RS10 to R10 zoning for properties located at 1900 and 1904 Ashton Avenue, encompassing 0.92 acres. Item number 15, Ordinance Bill 2022-1611. The sponsors Councilmember Toombs amends the Metro zoning code by changing from RS10 to R10 zoning for property located at 1909 Ashton Avenue, approximately encompassing 0.29 acres. Item number 16, Ordinance Bill 2022-1614. The sponsors Councilmember Toombs amends the Metro zoning code by changing from RS10 to R10 zoning for property located at 1609 Elizabeth Road, encompassing 0.31 acres. Item number 17, Ordinance Bill 2022-1617. The sponsors Councilmember Toombs amends the Metro zoning code by changing from RS 7.5 to R6A zoning for property located at 2404 Old Matthews Road, encompassing 0.18 acres. Item number 19, Ordinance Bill 2022-1622 by Councilmember Rutherford. This applies building material restrictions for an ordinance. We're going to hear an amendment for that in a moment, but we'll go ahead and get the materials restrictions out of the way. But that is for Ordinance Bill 2022-1621, an SP district for properties located at 1094, 1098, 1104, and 1110 Barnes Road. And finally, item number 20, BL 2022-1625. Sponsors Councilmember Toombs amends the Metro zoning code by changing from RS10 to R10 zoning for property located at 1613 Elizabeth Road, encompassing 0.37 acres. Do any of those items need to be pulled from the consent calendar for any reason? Seeing none, if I could call on our Vice Chair Rutherford.
I move approval of the consent calendar.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Rutherford. Is there a second? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, thank you. That gets that out of our way. The next item that we would need to consider is Councilmember Taylor. We've got your land swap coming up, so I'm going to need you to help explain that one for us. But this is item, because it's pretty complicated, but it's a good thing. So this is item number 8, Ordinance Bill 2023-1684. The sponsors are Councilmembers Taylor, Roten, Withers, and Hurt. Authorizes the Metro government by and through the Metro Department of Parks and Recreation to swap 3140 Parthenon Avenue and a portion of 3138 Parth Avenue for 3136 Parthenon Avenue to allow for a future expansion of the Centennial Dog Park. And let me call on Vice Chair Rutherford. Would you move the amendment on that one, and then we'll ask Mr. Taylor to explain it to us?
Certainly. Motion on the amendment.
Thank you so much. Is there a second? All right, great. I will now call on Councilmember Taylor, and you are free to call on any of the prestigious staff that we have before us if we need more technical explanation. But what's the nature of the amendment?
Thank you. So the nature of the amendment is to based on community meetings, the neighbors were looking to add buffers along the siding of the property, as well as working with Metro Parks, which again is another neighbor, which is where the land swap is going to happen. Metro Parks has also asked for some of those buffers, as well as the property in question that we're trading to from private to public. They're asking to remove a paved driveway and then do sea and straw and a few other pieces there to basically bring back the property, because the property currently has a vacant home on it. So we want to bring that property up to speed of exactly where the Parks property is that doesn't have a vacant home and has grass and trees and different things of that nature, which then brings me along to asking them for trees and other shrubbery along the the property.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your continued work on that with Metro Parks. Do any members have any questions or comments about the amendment? If not, we do have a motion and a second on the amendment. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? And then would you like to move the bill as amended? I'm assuming Vice Chair Rutherford, I guess, would you?
Yes, I would love for a committee member to move the bill as amended.
I'm happy to move the bill as amended. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. We have a motion that's properly seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Next, we have, I'm going to have item number 11 move to the heel. We do have next, I think, for Councilmember Toombs, I've got item number 12. This is ordinance BL 2022-1531. The sponsors are Councilmembers Toombs and Benedict. This amends a section of the Metro Zoning Code of Regulations to require notice to surrounding property owners for adaptive residential developments. And Councilmember Toombs, if you would like to bring us up to speed on your amendment, please.
Thank you, Chair. So the amendment, it's still just a notice requirement, but it just changes the timing from the original bill says within 21 days of issuance of any permit. And this changes it to within 21 days of application.
An application for permit.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Councilmember Toombs? Questions or comments? If not, would you like to move your amendment?
Yes, I would like to move my amendment.
All right. Is there a second? We have a second. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. And would you like to move your bill as amended?
It was amended.
All right. With that, we have a motion properly seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Wonderful. And then we come back to Vice Chair Rutherford, and you will get to move your own amendment and bill. So, and then please explain it to us. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we need to do the motion on the bill first and then get to the amendments? Is that what we're doing?
I usually do the amendment first, but it doesn't matter. Yeah. Let's go ahead and just do the amendment
Okay.
for now, and then we'll talk about all of it. So
Then I am moving the amendment, a motion on the amendment with a brief explanation.
wonderful. Is there a second? All right, please go ahead.
Thank you. There are three key small items that the amendment adds to the SB, one of which it clarifies some language related to SDRs. And then probably most importantly is the language referring to cemeteries. We have a lot of old cemeteries in our area, and this adds some protection to existing cemeteries and the potential for finding new cemeteries that may be or suspected are on this property. And then lastly, it adds a buffer to the SB.
Wonderful. Does anyone have any questions for Vice Chair Rutherford about the amendment? If not, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Motion on the bill as amended.
Wonderful. Thank you. Do we have a second? Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Wonderful. That takes care of that. Now, I think that leaves us with an item of greater discussion. I do see we have some staff here from the codes department, and I will call upon Councilmember Parker to discuss this bill and the amendments.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a BL 2022-1471. The way that I would like to handle this, if it's all right with you, Chair, is to maybe have an introduction of what the bill is, maybe do questions with staff if folks have any. I know we have code staff and we have planning staff over at the table. And then go through the amendments after we've had a little bit of discussion about the bill generally. So I guess with that, I would move the bill.
Move the bill? Great. Is there a second? We have the bill was moved and seconded, and would you like to begin the discussion or call on staff, or what's your preference?
Sure. I'll begin with just a little bit of a summary of what the bill does, and then maybe we'll go to the planning table for clarification if I miss anything, because this was the result of a lot of discussion and back and forth between codes and planning and myself. So the bill really does three things. Firstly, under present Metro Code, related and unrelated people are not allowed to live in a household together. The example that I often use to illustrate this is like my girlfriend and I live in a house. We would be allowed to have a roommate today, but if she and I were to get married, then we would no longer be allowed to have that roommate because the familial relationship would constitute the family unit. And as the code is currently construed, there's not room in that family unit for an unrelated person. So this fixes that. It sort of legalizes what I've called the mixed households of related and unrelated people. Secondly, this, as substituted, raises the maximum number of people that can live in a home from 3 to 7. I know there has been some back and forth about that, a lot of feedback. We had a great discussion with Neighbor to Neighbor last week where we discussed this bill for about 45 minutes or an hour. So I do have an amendment in the packet that would lower that cap from the proposed 7 in the bill down to 5. So that's the second thing it does is raise from 3 to 7. And the third thing it does is a little bit technical, and I might ask, I know we've got Byron Hall from Codes here, but I might ask for an explanation from Code staff about this because it's related to the enforcement piece. When we do have these overcrowding issues, we have these sort of de facto boarding houses going on, and changing the language of the definition of a dwelling unit to allow us to make more effective citations in those cases and have more successful abatement processes. So those are the three things that the bill really does. I know that there's been a lot of discussion, interest in this bill, so I can open it up to questions from committee members or Chair, however you would like to proceed.
Thank you. For the planning table, do y'all have anything to add to that, or go ahead, Colin?
No, I think Councilmember Parker did a good job of explaining the reference that he made to allowing better enforcement was to actually tie family and dwelling unit together so that the definition of dwelling unit says it's limited to one family, and then the various ways that a family may or may not be defined. So that would be the one piece that he was speaking of.
Okay, great. Councilmember Parker, does it make sense, do you think, to go ahead and maybe get an intro from Codes, or to let questions go first and then have Codes respond to those?
However you prefer, Chair.
My inclination is that probably I think most of the emails that we've received actually are about the codes enforcement piece, is my reading of those many emails that we've received. And so I think that might be helpful maybe to have a little bit of an intro to that from the codes department about how that enforcement goes today versus how it would go in the ordinance.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Can I get a representative from codes to approach? I see Director Byron Hall coming. And you should be working now.
Did we want to start with questions or?
I think maybe one thing, just to maybe give a little bit of background about what enforcement of this ordinance has been, how that's been handled today, and maybe how that would change under this ordinance.
Well, basically,
And you might need to speak, I know you're tall, but you might need to get closer to that microphone. Thank you.
is that better?
Much better. Thank you.
Currently today, it's the way the code is written, it's 3 unrelated, not more than 3 unrelated. It's driven by complaint. I meant we're not out proactively knocking door to door looking for this. What drives it typically is overcrowding the cars. We end up with, I think one of the most recent ones we dealt with, we had 5 young ladies living in a house, and it generates 5 cars, and if we all have a guest there, it's 10 cars, and then for us, you've got cars on the grass, cars in the street, blocking driveways, and it's a younger crowd that parties, and we get complaints. End up getting complaints from the neighborhood. Currently, when we respond, we try to verify how many occupants are there. If it's rental property, we'll get the lease from the landlord, and if there's more than the 3 on the lease, we can prosecute that way. Most of the time it ends up being that they've all said that they're family. Currently, we've got no way to prove whether it's man, wife, son, 2 or 3 cousins, or what. So it's hard to enforce unless they actually admit it.
Okay. And thank you for that background. That's a little bit helpful. And at least for this ordinance, as a substitute, and we have a couple of amendments, but could you maybe speak to what, if anything, would be different for enforcement under the ordinance as proposed?
Well, I mean, ultimately, we're the enforcement tool. We'll enforce to the best of our ability whatever passes. The big concern for us is, like I said, is the vehicles that ends up, because that's our largest complaint. There again, parking on the grass. If it ended up being 7, you've got 7 vehicles. In the event that you've got some of the housing the way we have in today's world, if you've got an HPR, that could be 14 vehicles in 2 dwellings that used to be 1 lot, where it's been split for an HPR. I know there was concerns that came up, and I was made aware of a list of questions about how does this affect a widow with a couple of children that wanted somebody to come in and wanted to move in to help pay bills, or a foreign exchange student that needed to be placed with a family. And I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, but there's several situations that technically they'd be legal anyway. One of them addressed being a foster child. If you've got a foster child, they're related by law, so it doesn't affect them. If you have a student that's coming here from out of state to go to one of the colleges or universities, and they couldn't afford to stay on campus, that one's a little squirrely, I guess, because technically most of the colleges require the students to live on campus until they're a senior. But those type of situations are not what we get complaints on. When you've got just 1 or so, we don't get complaints on that. We get it on the younger group and the vehicles. I seen your hand up.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, and don't go far, but I'll go back to Councilmember Parker if you have anything to add at this point, and then I have seen a couple hands, and I've been putting y'all on a list, so I'll go back to Councilmember Parker.
Yes, sir. I was just hoping, Director Hall, if you could speak a little bit to the change that was requested by your department around the dwelling unit definition, sort of how, when there is an abatement action today, where are we seeing roadblocks in that process, and how would this help? Because it was my understanding that this would help with that process.
That, I don't know if I understand the question or not, that raising the number would help with this process? Is that
The definition of dwelling unit?
well, it's actually the definition of dwelling unit hadn't really changed. It's a single unit providing complete living facilities like a living, sleeping, eating, sanitation, cooking facilities. I know it addressed, if it would address that there was just to be one family in a dwelling, but I don't know that solves our problem in raising the number of occupants there.
Director, thank you for that. If I may interject, I do want to go back to planning, since I know that the planning staff worked pretty extensively on the ordinance. So let me go back to the planning table for a refresher on that point.
Sure. So one of the things when we started looking at this proposal was also talking with codes and Metro Legal as it related to the language that's currently in the code and what was being proposed. And one of the things that is not super clear in the current code. There's, of course, definition of a family, but then the code isn't super clear that a dwelling unit is intended to be for one family. And so in working through these revisions, Metro Legal indicated that it would be good to get that in there. And so that was something that was added so that now the definition of dwelling unit indicates that it is, as Mr. Hall explained, for complete housekeeping unit intended for one family. And so then you're tying together the definition of dwelling unit along with the definition of family so that there's not sort of a question about what is intended there.
Okay. Anything else on that, or are we ready to go to other questions? All right, so this is my list that I have so far, but I've got Councilmember Johnston, I think Councilmember Bradford, Councilmember Cash, and Councilmember Pulley. And I see Hauser, but I'll go ahead for now and call on Councilmember Johnston.
Thank you, Chair, and for recognizing me, even though I'm not on the committee. So as far as the three things that this would do, so allowing unrelated and related people to live together, I don't think anybody has that much of a problem with that. Clarifying one dwelling unit per one family, however that's defined, clarifying that I don't think is an issue. I think the issue is increasing the number of unrelated people that can live together. And one of the things that was said, I want to make very clear that it was said in the last meeting that we discussed this, that this is just a maximum, and that section 16.24.400J was actually where square footage was the backstop on preventing overcrowding. And what I've learned recently is that this is actually not enforced by codes. This is a building code. And so I wanted to go to Director Hall so he could explain that better, because I think we had a false sense of security from an enforcement perspective based on this section in Title 16 that simply does not exist. So Director Hall, could you speak to that, please?
Well, it does give a minimum square footage area per occupant. Where that comes into play, most of the time we have difficulty gaining access to these properties. We have to be allowed access to go in. Under our building code, there are minimum room size requirements, and this would end up affecting a lot of folks, because, I mean, ultimately, and I'll just give a scenario here, if you're a couple that's unmarried and you buy a 2-bedroom home, and one of the bedrooms is only 70 square feet, if y'all was to have twins, technically you're in violation of Chapter 16 because there's not enough square footage for two of the children in one bedroom. That creates a problem there, because I mean, we don't do follow-up inspections. You know, once it's inspected after it's built, then we don't do follow-up inspections. This can be enforced later if they were allowed access in to measure rooms, as far as that goes, in a way of controlling how many occupants were actually in the dwelling.
Thank you, Director Hall. Anything else, Councilmember Johnston?
No,
on the bill as it is. We'll get to the amendments next. But.
Yeah, right. I'll just leave it there. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Johnston. Next, I have, I believe, Councilmember Bradford. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. My question comes from some concerns I have, and you brought it up earlier about if a complaint is filed, say there's 5 to 6 individuals in this household, you get a complaint about the cars and everything, you go up, and they claim they're cousins or their siblings. Whether we keep it at 3, we go up to 7, I still have concerns that no matter what, if there's no method for codes to enforce making sure that these people are actually related, we're just making the problem worse by doing this. So what changes to the enforcement can alleviate a lot of the concerns that I and my residents have, that what this bill is doing is basically legalizing private boarding houses?
Well, if it became prevalent enough of a problem, we would have to check with Metro Legal to see what route we could take or what we could require. I'm assuming we could require a marriage certificate to prove you're married to be related by law. I don't know, just to be perfectly honest, at how it would end up being. You know, if you had an adopted child or if you had the foster child, we would end up having to see documentation. That could get overwhelming and quite hard to prove if it got down to that.
So basically, the new bill wouldn't make enforcement any easier than it is now.
No, sir.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Did planning have anything that you wanted to add to that one? Okay. Next, I've got Councilmember Cash. There you go.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate you recognizing me, even though I'm not on this committee. And my questions kind of relate to the same stuff. I mean, one of the questions you led off with, Chair, was kind of what are the barriers to enforcement, or how is it being enforced now, and how does this bill remove those? And I'm not sure that I've really heard that much that addresses the latter part. Like, I'm open to some changing of this law here, and I can see some problems with it, but I don't like passing bills where there's no enforcement that we can do anything about it. So I guess I kind of want to ask the director. So I heard some legal. There's some in the bill. There's some legal changes to what constitutes a dwelling unit that might make it stronger on paper for you to enforce. But in terms of being able to inspect, this bill changes nothing about your ability to go in and inspect a property, right?
Well, we have to be allowed access to go in, and if they refuse access, I mean, other than going through requesting a civil warrant, going through that process, which can be a lengthy process, we don't have any other means.
Have you say can be a lengthy process. Have you done that? I mean, I guess part of what I want to get to is, how often does this come up? How often are you asked to enforce a property based on occupancy, based on a hunch or a guess that there are more occupants than there are supposed to be?
This is completely complaint driven. We done a little research from January of 2020 until current. We'd had 297 cases, 297 complaints of overcrowding that were actually abated complaints and that were corrected. I believe they were all corrected, except for the last few months, the ones that are most recent.
Do I understand that you said you had 297 complaints over a couple of years and that all of them were corrected?
I'm not 100% that all of them are corrected. The most recent ones I haven't had and I don't have a count on the most recent ones that are not corrected. Now, a lot of times we find that there's actually no violation. If everybody in the family if everybody's related, then we have no enforcement. The complaints generate almost 100% of the time on vehicles, but too many vehicles in the yard. That's what the complaint starts out as, and it almost inevitably, it'll be too many vehicles and too many people living in the house. The next thing is hard to prove is who actually lives in the house. We're just visiting for the weekend, or it's a good friend of mine that's out on spring break. They're here they're here to stay with us for a week. So we run into all of these scenarios.
And so if you get that response from somebody that lives there, would you consider that a closed case? Like that, okay, it's a visitor, closed case.
Correct.
Are you ever able to determine like how many people currently get mail? Is that a piece of data that you have access to? How many people at that address get mail? Or can you look at the cars and see like who they're registered to? And
we have run car registrations before, voter registrations, car tags. Those are a few of the tools that we have currently. We've even checked bank accounts before, as far as that goes. So,
how do you do that? You have to get a warrant to do that?
I'm sorry?
How are you able to check bank accounts?
Just to get our property standards assistant director, Bill Penn, he has a way that he can get the information just to see where it's not that we've got how much money and what his account number is, just where the banking is done.
I think that's all I have for now. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Cash. And Councilmember Parker, I'll come back to you at the end of this, unless you feel an urgent need to jump in on anything. Next, I've got Councilmember Pulley. I know I do want to be respectful of time, but my hope is that also I know this is coming before another committee tomorrow. My hope is that while we have folks here, we can hopefully have most of the discussion today, and there may be some follow-up in committee tomorrow. But with that, I'll go ahead and recognize Councilmember Pulley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Especially, I'm not on the committee, and I appreciate the indulgence. I'll make this very quick because most of the questions that I had have already been asked. Do you support the increase in number from 3 to 7?
For our department, I can't support it because I see it being detrimental in the number of complaints that we will receive.
Would you support any increase in that number from 3?
Well, honestly, it's hard enough to enforce with the 3. For our department, I see it, like I said, we're just the enforcement tool. We'll support whatever's passed by council, but I think it's difficult enough for us to enforce it the way it is now. I think increasing that will only make it worse for our department.
Just one more brief question, Mr. Chair, and I don't, certainly this question is not designed for you to comment on a specific case, but in my district, we find the same issues that you described. A number of vehicles that are attached to unrelated people. I've got one particular place now where there was an abate notice sent to the landowner because we have 5 separate individuals living in there. And the abate notice was basically targeted at January the 4th. And there's really nothing that can be done beyond that because they've ignored the abate notice. So do the provisions in this bill make it easier for you to deal with situations like that where they ignore your attempts to abate?
No, sir.
Okay. I don't have anything further with respect to codes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chair Pulley. Next, I believe I saw Councilmember Hauser. Let me hang on just a second. There you go. Sorry about that.
Yeah, when this was originally brought to us, we were told the purpose was to allow people to afford to be able to rent in Nashville because more people could move together. But I don't see anything in the bill that addresses that, because as a landlord, if I know now I can put 7 people in this place rather than 3 or 4, I'm not just going to say, well, whoopee, I'll keep the same amount of money for rent, but I know there's going to be more wear and tear because there are more people. I'm going to say, yippee, I can raise the rents. So is there any provision, any way to prevent that from happening in the bill? Because I don't see this does anything to reduce the rent that individuals are paying.
Councilmember Hauser, let me thank you for that question. Let me go to the planning table, and then I'll let Councilmember Parker respond.
Sure. So Metro, per state law, does not have the ability to do any sort of rent control or any sort of regulations related to the rent. But for instance, if right now there's a 4-bedroom home, that 4-bedroom home could only be rented to 3 unrelated individuals, versus if this was passed, then it could potentially be rented to 4, bringing the cost per person down.
So if the rent did not change, the cost would come down. But if the landlord realized they could get another $1,000 a month, it wouldn't necessarily reduce the rent.
And that's really outside of the scope of our review of a text amendment. Metro does not have the capability to do any sort of rent control.
So that means this bill has nothing to do with lowering the rent per person.
I'm going to let Councilmember Parker respond to that, and then I still have, I believe, Councilmember Benedict in my queue. So, Councilmember Parker.
Thank you. Just a direct response to Councilmember Hauser. I realize that this bill has been kind of framed as about tenants. These regulations, these restrictions actually cover everyone in Nashville, so they cover homeowners as well as tenants. One example I know of, some young folks, fairly well-to-do, went off to college, came back to Nashville, saw the rental prices, and they decided, 4 or 5 of them, to purchase a home together. These are folks that are unrelated, and they live in that home together. It's a good way for them to be able to afford to stay in the neighborhood they want to stay in, build a little bit of equity, and that's currently not allowed under the Metro Code. So I know that folks have tried to make it just about tenants, but this is really about everyone. This is about homeowners as well. So I think when we look at the overall affordability question in Nashville, it's kind of an all-the-above approach.
Okay. Next, I have Councilmember Benedict. Any other council members? Councilmember Cash would like to ask a question again, so I will now call on Councilmember Benedict. Go ahead.
Thank you, Councilmember Withers, especially since I'm not on committee. My wife and I are married, and whether I was married to a woman or a man, am I allowed to have a roommate under existing law?
Let me call on the planning table.
No.
Could you help me understand why we wouldn't be able to?
Sure. So the definition of a family is any number of related. So you and your wife would be a family, or 3 unrelated. So that is a different grouping of family. So there's like 4 different categories of family. And so because you are a family, you have already met one of those definitions. You cannot add another subset of family into it. So no, you could not have a roommate.
She doesn't watch committee meetings, so I'll say this now, not tomorrow night. If we were to divorce rather, could we then have a 3rd person in the house under today's standards?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you to everyone for that. All right. Anything else, Councilmember Benedict?
That's all. Thank you.
All right. And next, I'll go back to Councilmember Cash, and then any other comments so far. All right, Councilmember Cash.
Thanks. I'm not sure who I'm addressing this to. I talked to staff about it a little bit. I did talk to Councilman Parker about it. Title II refers to, there's a part of Title II that talks about affordable housing grants. I don't know if I'm using the right terminology, but basically, I hope somebody correct me if I get this wrong, but basically, like we give out grants to folks so that they can afford housing. There are landlords that can agree to accept those as payment, But it's partly talked about in Title II, and also in that part of Title II, it has the language about no more than 3 unrelated people. So that would qualify for these homes that renters can use these affordable housing grants. Does this bill address that at all?
Who's best to answer that question? What Ms. Darby's, Director Darby has stated is that this ordinance does not address Title II.
Okay, thank you. Well, let me, if I may add, like, it seems like if this, and I believe that it is about helping folks afford housing, it seems like the programs that we have that are meant to address affordable housing should not be exempt from this change.
Thank you for that observation. Next, and question. Next, I've got Councilmember Gamble, and then I'll go back to Councilmember Bradford. So, Councilmember Gamble, you haven't spoken yet. Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So my question has to do with the bill as it stands with adding unrelated individuals being able to stay in those apartments. Would this bill or any of the amendments, no matter what the number, 3, 4, 5 more people, would it address the point that Councilmember Benedict just brought up? Would this bill or any of the amendments address that? And if you could explain how. Thank you.
Certainly. So it would be, sorry, I have amendments and, oh, sorry, here we go. Yes, because it would modify the definition of the family to basically say an individual, 2 or more persons related by blood, marriage, or law, or a group of 2 or more unrelated persons not to exceed 4, 5, 7 persons. Such group may include a combination of related and unrelated persons.
Does that answer your question, Councilmember?
Yes, it does very much. And I think that's very relevant because, we don't want to increase the homeless population by not considering that we do need to make changes to the bill so that it addresses those things, but keeping it where it also addresses concerns that communities have with too many people. So hopefully we can come to a compromise. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gamble. Next, I'll go back to Councilmember Bradford. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. This question, I believe codes might be able to assist with. It was brought up earlier when planning was talking about number of bedrooms. A 4-bedroom, you still only have 3 people. From a building standard, when you're building homes with a certain number of bedrooms, say it's a 4-bedroom or 5-bedroom, when it comes to the driveway and a garage, is there a certain standard that there has to be enough room in the driveway and garage, or vice versa, to accommodate each bedroom?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other Councilmember Welsh? You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's important. My understanding of the bill is not so much that it is to address affordable housing, though that might be a very nice benefit of this bill. This is more about access to housing and providing housing to people right now who are kept out of housing because of our definition of family and how many related and unrelated people we allow to move in. So that would speak to what Councilmember Parker said about the 5 unrelated people. All 5 people have a place to live. It's not necessarily that it's going to be cheaper than anything else on the market, but simply that we are allowing access to housing for people who right now might not be able to have that access.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Welsh. Any other comments before I go back to Councilmember Parker? All right. I'm going to go back to Councilmember Parker, at least on the bill, and then we'll decide where you'd like to go next.
If I may ask Director Hall one last question from me for the moment. Director Hall, so you mentioned that this is, in your abatement process, this is a complaint-driven thing, and that the complaints typically stem from car vehicular issues and noise. Are there other parts of the Metro Code that give you tools to address like cars parked on vehicles, loud parties, things like that? Like, are there other parts of the codes that can be cited and have abatement action taken?
specifically towards the overcrowding? Is that?
The issues that you're getting complaints from, because I imagine when you get a complaint about cars, you don't necessarily know how many people are living in there. So
That's correct.
if people are parking on grass, can you cite them for parking on grass?
Yes. Yes.
All right. If people are violating the noise ordinance, can you cite them for violating the noise ordinance?
No, sir. That would go to the police department.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you being here, sir. So I guess we're going to go through these amendments here. I want to just cite, like, big picture, a couple of data points that I brought to the neighbor-to-neighbor discussion that we had last week. Two just major trend lines in demographics and housing in the United States. Fewer people are entering traditional nuclear married households, and those that do are doing it later. The homes that are being built, I got this from the census characteristics of new housing data, nearly half of the new homes built have 4 or more bedrooms. That was not the case in the past. That over the past 30 years, that number has just steadily climbed up to half, and there's no reason to think that either of those trends are reversing. We can say we want to bring back starter homes. We can say we want earlier household formation, but there's no data indicating that either of those are likely to happen in the near future. So, I mean, to me, this bill is kind of addressing the realities of the world that we find ourselves in today. So with that, I guess, would you like to just go through the amendments one by one?
Sure, if that's what you'd like to do. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'll move.
You have the first amendment. So
I'll move
Amendment 1. So
yes.
We'll let you move Amendment 1. And would you? Is there a second? Do you have a second for Amendment 1? Oh, thank you. We have a proper second on your amendment. Would you please describe it for us?
Thank you. So Amendment 1 simply changes the number of folks that can live in a house from the 7 that is in the substituted bill right now down to 5. So this has been the subject of a lot of the discussion about this bill, is the number of folks that can live in a house. I think that 5 is the compromise. I think that we've seen there's some other numbers that folks have thrown out there, but I think 5 is correct. You look at about half of the houses being constructed now, 4 bedrooms or more. This would allow a couple and 3 other roommates. 5 would, but I'm open to discussion from colleagues about Amendment 1.
Go through it.
There is any.
Okay.
Questions?
Any other questions or comments about Amendment number 1, which would change that number from 7 down to 5? Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the sponsor for all the work he's done on this, because I think we do know that we do need to increase housing options, and this has been a good discussion. Just 2 more data points to add. Someone raised the question about, will the landlords just raise the rent? And this is totally anecdotal and not scientific, but I did see an email or text conversation between realtors going, oh, yay, 7 people, let's raise the rent. So I said, well, what's the balance point where it wouldn't do that? And they said maybe 4 or 5. So I appreciate you coming down from 7. I look forward to the discussion about whether 3 or 4 or 5 is where we end up landing. But certainly people care a lot about this. We need to increase housing options, and thank you for being willing to just keep bouncing this around till we get it figured out.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. Any other discussion on Amendment number 1? All right, so because this is the planning, I definitely welcome anyone to discuss things, because I think it helps us to flesh it out here rather than on the floor. But for Amendment number 1, I'll need to limit this vote count to committee members for planning and zoning, and then perhaps Councilmember Pulley can have a similar exercise for your committee tomorrow. But so for planning and zoning committee members only, if we would, all those who are in favor of amendment number 1, please raise your hands. 2, 3, 4, 6, and I will join that. So I'll join that. Yes. All right. Thank you. All the planning and zoning committee members who are opposed to amendment number 1. Okay. Just for the sake of it, any abstentions? Don't think so. So we do have an abstention? To a yes? Okay, great. All right, so that gets us for Amendment 1 to recommendation of 8 in favor, 1 against, 0 not voting. For Amendment number 2, I will call on Councilmember Johnston to describe that one for us, please.
Thank you.
There we go. Sorry about that.
Okay, so this, what this amendment would do, it updates that related and unrelated can live together, because I don't want Emily Benedict to have to get a divorce. Oh, just a little levity. It also keeps into the substitute the language that clarifies one family per dwelling unit. But it increases the number of unrelated and related people that can live together only in the UZO to 4, because I was looking for a compromise, to 4, and outside of the UZO to 3. It's really easy to figure out if you're in the UZO or not. There's maps, there's whatever, and IT, I was told, could make that very easy on Parcel Viewer, this, that, and the other. But it was, where is density like this more appropriate? The only tool that we have really is the UZO, even though that's not what the UZO was created for, but that's the only tool we have to figure out a differentiation. So I'm not in love with this amendment, but I thought it would be worthy of discussion. So I may or may not even move it on the floor, but I thought it was worth a discussion.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnston. And, is it all right if I call on the planning table just for feedback about that proposal?
Certainly. So the urban zoning overlay is sort of reflective of development form, character. It represents sort of the original development area of the city, where you have a bit more gridded street networks, alleys present, those sorts of things. And so it is generally utilized in the zoning code for bulk mass design-based issues. And so utilizing it for sort of a land use, or, well, not really land use, an occupancy determination is sort of outside of what the UZO is intended for. And also, from our perspective, there should be housing choice sort of across the county, regardless of if something is in the UZO or outside of the UZO.
Thank you. I see Councilmember Cash, whom I will call on next. Thank you, Lisa, for that explanation.
Thanks. Just real quick, I can live with the number in this amendment. I don't like the fact that it applies to UZO. I think Lisa kind of started touching on why. Like, it's like, I get, like, when we did parking minimums bill, I get why that applied to the UZO. It's a good development that's going to go through codes and be looked at really closely. I don't think most of these landlord applications, landlord registrations, and renting out is going through that same degree of government oversight. You know, we have multifamily development that's likely more appropriate in the UZO, but there's oversight for that. I think if it's appropriate for 4 people, 4 unrelated people to live in a house, it should be appropriate throughout the county.
Thank you, Councilmember Cash. And committee members, I will concur with that analysis that the UZO sort of was created for block structure, presence of alleys, a lot of things like that. That's why it was really appropriate to modify parking restrictions in the UZO, because that has been kind of the part of the function of the UZO for a long time, and not so much how many people should be in a dwelling unit or not. And I will also concur with Councilmember Cash that, you know, there are large and small housing units in all parts of the county. So I think that it's just not a good fit for what the UZO was intended for or functions as. That is my personal feedback, but I'll go back to Councilmember Johnston.
Yeah, I get that, and that's exactly why I wanted to have this discussion, so that we can say that we've fully vetted everything. So like I said, I wasn't really in love with it in the first place. So I will not be moving this on the floor. So you can just, I don't know what the procedural delete, I don't know. Withdraw, I don't know.
We'll just mark it that we won't
Yeah.
take a vote count for
Yeah, perfect.
recommendation. Thank you, Councilmember Johnston.
Sure.
Next one is also Councilmember Johnston for amendment number 3.
Perfect. So this one is countywide across the board. It leaves the number at 3, but it does address the other 2 things that the substitute addresses, which I think is necessary and probably wise to do at this point. So unrelated and related people can live together, 1 dwelling unit per family, however that's defined, but leaves the number at 3. Reason being for all the reasons that codes has expressed. I think that's where the sticking point is with folks. It's not really solving any problem, but it's creating a lot. And until we get to a point where we can actually enforce what's on the books, whether it's, well, we're related, well, we need to be able to prove that so that definition actually has meaning. We need to be able to just across the board be able to enforce what's on the books. And if we can't enforce those things, then it probably needs to be updated to come out of there. It doesn't make any sense to have something in our code that we can't or won't enforce for whatever reason. And so until we can get our house in order, I think expanding this number in any way is irresponsible and potentially detrimental to our neighborhoods, which is what I think we all wanted to focus on this term, was a focus back in on our neighborhoods. And so that's what this amendment does. It leaves it at 3, addresses the other 2 points.
Thank you, Councilman Johnson. And just to clarify that your amendment, assuming I'm looking at the right one, but it does allow 3, whether related or unrelated.
Correct.
Is that correct? So
Yep.
it removes that restriction.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on amendment number 3? Councilmember Benedict.
Thank you, Chair. So would this allow a married couple, their children, and their au pair?
No, because that would be over 3. So it's a family, any number of unrelated. 10 doesn't matter. I mean, I'm sorry, any number of related. 10 related, all fine. Throw in a live-in housekeeper nanny, then that would not be permitted.
Related and unrelated, but still no more than 3.
Can I respond to that?
If I can maybe call on our legal counsel. So,
I think I may have jumped the gun when I asked to speak because your example had 4 people. Is that right? Yeah, then no, they would still not be able to live together because it caps it at 3. But this amendment does allow for the scenario you discussed earlier where you and your wife would be able to have a roommate. This does allow for that.
but only 1 roommate.
Yes, but only 1.
Well, thank you for that, Director Darby.
Just one point. So again, when we are enforcing codes, it's on a complaint basis. So while is that good policy, it just is reality. So in the situation where you have a couple, their child, and an au pair, more than likely that's not going to get complained upon. But when you do have a house with 4, 5 people that are living in there and they are causing a problem, we have to have a tool to be able to address that. So if we remove the tool by increasing to 5, we've removed the tool, and it's the only tool to address that. So if you're not a problem, you're not a problem. But if you are a problem, we have to have whatever tool in place to address that for the quality of life of the people that are living around it.
Thank you for that commentary, and I'll leave you, let me go to Councilmember Parker.
I'll go ahead and I don't think there's been a motion on this yet, but just to address a few points that were brought up about this amendment, it was said that this bill doesn't solve any problem. I mean, I think that housing is a huge problem in Nashville right now. I think that you look at our homelessness crisis, you look at the affordability issues, and giving folks more choice in how they can form their households and choose to live the way they like to live, I think is a positive step that this body can make. And if the other point was, this is the only tool that we have to address this myriad of issues, and that's just not true. I think that Director Hall's comments led me to believe that this is not a particularly effective tool at addressing things like property standards violations. So if people are parking on the grass, you need to get them for parking on the grass. The issues that are being, I don't think that a severe restriction on household occupancy is how we deal with every issue in our neighborhoods. This notion that we're going to, say, take a quarter of the households in every neighborhood and just put them out of compliance with Metro Code so that we can use that code to go after people we don't like, that's cruel, that's unfair, that's pitting neighbor against neighbor. And I don't think that's the way that we should design our code.
Thank you for that. I'm just conferring with council just to clarify a point. Councilmember Johnston and Councilmember Parker, what I believe that I'm going to recommend that we do, just partly in the interest of time, I know we have a lot of stuff going on today, as well as we have a presentation on the capital improvements budget, which we're hoping to get through as well. What I would actually honestly recommend, I think, for this one is a one meeting deferral. I would say let's go ahead and at least have, we'll make a recommendation on this one today. We'll also take a recommendation number 4. My recommendation, though, overall, I think, is to maybe do a deferral so that we may be able to seek some additional clarification from Metro Legal, Planning, and the Codes Department. I think it seems to me that we're a little bit in different places, even from the Metro Department side on this one. So would you like to, just that's my recommendation, we won't have to do that, but would you like to move your amendment number 3? We have, amendment 3 has been moved. Is there a second? All right, so we're going to go back again to committee members only. Sorry about that. So for amendment 3, which limits it to 3 people, if you're on the Planning and Zoning Committee, all in favor of Amendment 3, please raise your hand. All right, and if you're opposed to Amendment 3, please raise your hand. And I will join that. All right, any not voting for any reason or anything else? Okay, so that one, yeah. All right, so once again, so if you're for amendment number 3, please raise your hand. 2. And if you're opposed to amendment 3, please raise your hand. Yeah. All right, so our committee's recommendation on amendment number 3 is 3 in favor, 5 against, 0 not voting. Councilmember Sepulveda, did you vote on this one? Not voting. Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry, I missed you on that. All right. Next, we'll do amendment number 4, which is by Councilmember Pulley. Can I get a member of the committee to move amendment 4? All right. We have a motion and a second. Great. So, Councilmember Pulley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing anything, but just saying that I do agree with Councilmember Parker on the first and the third items that he brought up about the 3 points of his bill, and this amendment has no impact on the substitute version of those 2 issues. It simply reduces the number to 4, and as we debate this bill, I think it's important to have another tool so that we can have another option should the body decide that this is the number we should arrive at instead of 765 or 3. And that's simply just offering the number 4 to that component. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And one other thing that we are looking at with these amendments, because they do revise multiple sections of the code, which is a little bit of where my hesitation is to take a final vote tomorrow, just to be honest to everyone, is for the amendment number 4, it limits it to 4. How does that relate to related versus non-related? I'll call on Director Darby.
This section, the change of the number from 7 to 4 or 7 to 5 or 7 to 3 amends the same section. So if you were to move these tomorrow night, whichever is the latest in time to pass would be the final number.
But in terms of if you have, so that's 4 people who can be unrelated. If you do have a family that's in there, how does that work?
So if you have 2 people who are related by blood or marriage or law, and 2 people who are not related to each other or to those 2 people that are related, then you would be fine living in a dwelling unit under Amendment 4.
And if you are a family, you're a family that has more than...
If you have 3 people in your family that's related by blood, marriage, or law, or otherwise by law, you would only be permitted to have 1 unrelated person live there. So you are capped at 4. If you have an unrelated people.
If you have an unrelated person, it's capped at 4. All right. So is everyone clear on that? All right. So I'll take any other discussion on amendment number 4. All right. So committee members only, please. One last time. For amendment number 4, if you're in favor of amendment number 4, please raise your hand.
1, 2.
All right. If you are opposed to amendment 4, please raise your hand. And I'll join that one, so it'll be 6.
And Sepulveda is...
And Councilmember Sepulveda,
Are you in it?
I'm sorry, so were you in favor or opposed or not voting to amendment number 4? Or do you need a repeat of the... Okay, so with this one, if you have a family, it caps you at 4 people. So if you have a family of, let's say, 3 people that are related, you could only have 1 additional person who's not related to the family that would stay there for a total of 4, for instance. So it caps it at 4 under Amendment 4. Against, okay. Against, so. All right, so let me now go back to Councilmember Parker to see what you would like to do.
Thank you, Chair. Could you I'm open to, this is not like an urgent pressing issue, so I'm open, it is Title 17, so I'm open to another deferral. I want to be clear on what we're seeking clarity on in that deferral period. I'm happy with it. If we decide to do a 1 or a 2 meeting deferral, that's fine. But I guess what are we, because this has been deferred a number of times, had 2 public hearings. So what are we looking for clarity on, if staff or the chair could say?
This is just my recommendation, is that my feeling is that the departments are in a little bit of different places on it, but I will defer to others. So Councilmember O'Connell. You're recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, again, and I apologize for arriving a little bit late for this conversation. I think as I talk to the department and think about these, to me, as we go through the amendment process, the thing that helps me in the deferral is just kind of also understanding. I know we have a different job to do than departments, and I know we sometimes ask departments to do things that aren't their recommendations, but I also think it is important to understand the legal and enforcement sides of this conversation. And I think as we go through a deferral, and as I make my choices on these amendments and which ones to support or not, I am definitely weighing the likelihood of being able to, I guess, do both things: enforce the scenarios that we know are problematic and want to enforce, and then provide some relief, particularly on the affordability side in the scenarios that are most likely to offer that. And I still feel like I am getting a lot of input, not just from constituents, but also from codes in particular, but certainly planning as well. And I will use that time to continue to refine my thinking on that as we go to the floor on some of these amendments. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. Councilmember Welsh is next.
Thank you, Chair. I think some of the confusion or whatever between the departments doesn't really have anything to do with the substance of this bill, because the issues being raised have nothing to do with related or unrelated. 5 related people in a house can cause the same amount of problems. They can have 10 vehicles. They can be noisy. Those issues of enforcement, citation and enforcement really don't have anything to do with this bill specifically. There are things that we need to deal with within each department on a much broader scale, because again, related or unrelated doesn't have anything to do with when those issues arise and how they are cited and or enforced.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. I think for me, and again, just for me, I think one of the things that might be helpful for me and constituents is maybe if we can work with, if you were to choose to do a deferral, would be to, we at least have a recommendation from our committee on the different amendments, but to get a little bit of kind of a summary of this is what the bill does, and this is how the amendments compare, because there are some things that are similar in them, but in a couple of cases, some things that maybe are a little different. But that's just my recommendation. But Councilmember Parker, what is your preference?
That's fine. I'll move a 1 meeting deferral.
1 meeting deferral. All right. Any other discussion on the motion for a deferral? Let me, if I can, I'll read out what the recommendations were from the Committee from Planning and Zoning. So for Amendment 1, it was 8 in favor, 1 against, 0 not voting. Amendment 2, we believe, is being withdrawn. Amendment 3 was 3 in favor, 5 against, 1 not voting. And Amendment 4 is 2 in favor, 7 against, and none not voting. So again, it seems like I think folks are thinking about it a little bit more and maybe need a little bit more time to maybe address any questions. But Councilmember Gamble.
Thank you. A procedural question. So if this is deferred in committee and deferred, will that mean that it'll be deferred on the floor and we won't be able to add the amendment? So the bill will be deferred as is without the amendment?
Amendments can be added on the floor.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's at the sponsor's prerogative.
Yeah, and I'll say, if I may, I regard 5 as the compromise here, and I'm going to be sticking with that unless there's something just very new information that we learn in the next couple weeks from feedback. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So the sponsor, Councilmember Parker, has moved a 1 meeting deferral. Any other discussion on the deferral motion? One last time, Planning and Zoning Committee members, if you're in favor of the 1 meeting deferral at the request of the sponsor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 7. All right, any against the deferral? Any not voting? All right, so we have 7. Our committee recommends a 1 meeting deferral to help clarify these matters a little bit more. All right, well, thank you, everyone. We have not 100% answered all of our questions. I think this is a really good discussion, and I think we have a little bit better understanding of where different members of the body are, as well as where the departments are, so we can begin refining some of that additional question in the next couple of weeks. So with that, this concludes the meeting, the business of the Planning and Zoning Committee. However, please do stick around. We do have a presentation from Planning at the end of our other committees about the capital improvements budget, and we will be discussing at that meeting how we plan to recommend the council's prioritization of the CIB items to the administration. So with that, I thank you everyone for your time, and this concludes the business of Planning and Zoning, and we're adjourned.